Good evening and welcome to the November 11, 2019 Board of Education meeting. I am going to ask you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. As we do that, I would like to recognize that today is Veterans Day, and as a board, share my appreciation, our appreciation for the veterans in our community and all who serve. So again, I ask you to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So tonight is our first Board of Education meeting following the election last Tuesday. We have two new board members with us, John Delaventura and Kristen Peck, so we certainly would like to welcome you both with us. I am starting off the meeting tonight in my role as secretary from the previous board. One of the first agenda items tonight will be the election of officers, executive officers for the board. But until we do that, I will be running in my role as secretary. I would like to say that the first thing on our agenda is going to be to administer the oath of office for those who were elected last Tuesday. We have the great honor of having our prior chair, Bill Bloss, and our prior vice chair, Gary Kazin, here to do the honors of swearing in our new members and our returning elected members. So I'm going to invite them to come up to the podium for those.
Good evening, members. I'd like to ask John Delaventura, please, to come to the podium. John Delaventura, if you'll raise your right hand, please. You do solemnly swear or affirm, as the case may be, that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, so long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, the duties of office of member of the Guilford Board of Education to the best of your abilities, so help you God.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Richard Hirsch. Mr. Hirsch, do you solemnly swear or affirm, as the case may be, that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, so long as you continue as a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, the duties of the office of member of the Guilford Board of Education to the best of your abilities, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations. Kristen Peck. Ms. Peck, Kristen Peck, do you solemnly swear or affirm, as the case may be, that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, so long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, the duties of the office of member of the Guilford Board of Education to the best of your abilities, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kathleen Ballas-Tracy. Dr. Ballas-Tracy, if you raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear or affirm, as the case may be, that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, so long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, the duties of the office of member of the Guilford Board of Education to the best of your abilities, so help you God.
Thank you. Thank you. Wait just a second. Wait just a second.
He's running.
I am asking Mr. Bloss and Mr. Kazin to just wait a moment. Their last public meeting for the Board of Education was in October, and I had the opportunity at that point to recognize the incredible service that they have provided our community, our school community, and this Board of Education. They were fabulous colleagues. Bill was an amazing mentor. But not everyone was at our meeting in October. In particular, I would like to offer our superintendent, Dr. Freeman, an opportunity to say something, and certainly welcome anyone else to do so if they wish.
Thank you, Dr. Balistraci. I would like to just take a moment and note for the community, but also for Mr. Bloss and Mr. Kazin. I've worked in about 4 different school districts in the state of Connecticut. I've worked for numerous boards of education. I have been fortunate in my time in Guilford to work with incredibly committed and talented board members like Mr. Bishop and all of the members sitting here tonight. But since I did miss your last public meeting, televised public meeting, I do want to take this moment individually to thank both of you for your commitment to the children of Guilford, for your leadership, and also for the partnership that we shared in your time here on the board in Guilford. I am excited about working with the newly formed board, but I want you both to know that I will miss working with both of you and appreciate everything that you've given not only to the district, to the schools, and to the children, but to me individually and personally. Thank you very much.
All right. So the next item on the agenda is the election of officers. This is the moment when we, as a board, will vote for a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary for this board moving forward. This process involves a nomination and a seconding, but the vote by law will be taken on paper. We have beautiful color-coded paper here to help us. So I am, for each position, going to ask for a nomination and a second, and then we will take the opportunity to vote on paper. So I'm going to start with the chair position. Is there a nomination for the chair for the Board of Education?
I would like to nominate Katie Balistraci as chairman for the Guilford Board of Education, and I do that after having been a colleague for 6 years on the Board of Education and also having known Katie for several other years through kids. And I will make that nomination.
Thank you.
I'd like to second that motion. I've also worked with Katie and seen the excellent work that she's done, and I'm very excited that she has agreed to take on these additional responsibilities.
Thank you very much. Are there other nominations for chair? Hearing none, I'm going to ask everyone to take their pink peach paper. It requires you putting your signature, printed name, and the name of the nominee on the form, and then we're going to pass them to the left, please.
Am I telling these or are you telling me?
This is really suspenseful.
We're seeing it and we need it.
That's exactly.
It'll be close.
I can report 8 affirmative votes for Katie Balistraci to be
Thank
the
you.
next chair of the Board of Education.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and I just want to acknowledge my appreciation to my colleagues for that vote of confidence, as well as the vote, and I simply hope to serve this group and this community to the best of my ability. I'm now going to ask for a nomination for Vice Chair of the Board.
I would like to nominate Amy Sullivan for Vice Chair of the Board. Having been on the board for 2 years, Amy's been a wonderful asset to me as a newer member. Amy's been serving for 6 years now, and I think she'll be a wonderful asset as our Vice Chair. So I nominate Amy Sullivan.
Is there a second to that nomination?
I'll be happy to second that. I've served only since January, but having gotten to know Amy among the rest of the board, it's clear that we would be well served by her being vice chair.
Any other nominations for Vice Chair? All right, then I'm going to ask you to put your vote down on the purple form and pass them to the left. Thank you.
I'm hurrying. I can report 8 affirmative votes for Amy Sullivan to be the next vice chair.
All right. Secretary, are there any nominations for Secretary for the Board of Education?
Yes, I would like to nominate Mrs. Moira Rader. In the past 2 years, I've been fortunate to serve on the board with Mrs. Rader. She has proven herself to be extremely knowledgeable, dedicated, collaborative, and very organized. She would be a great secretary.
Terrific. Are there a second to that nomination?
I can second that nomination, and I will echo what Mary has also said. And as one of our, newer Board of Ed members, you've certainly jumped into the role and taken on new responsibilities when asked, and I look forward to more collaboration with you.
Terrific. Are there any other nominations for Secretary? Hearing none, I'm going to ask everyone to place their vote. Pass to the left. Thank you.
Eight affirmative votes.
Wonderful. Congratulations. One of the things that will happen moving forward, each of the committees will be formed. We'll have new members note what committees that they would like to be on. We will have other board members express interest if they would like to move around on committees. Each of those committees will vote for their own chairperson, so that will happen over the next month or two as each of those committees, the policy committee, the curriculum assessment, instruction and assessment committee, and the operations committee, as these 3 committees meet. Likewise, each of us serves as a liaison to one of the 7 schools in town, so that will be identified as well, so that we can all continue to serve the schools in the best way possible. All right. Thank you. So, action on minutes. Is there a motion regarding October 15th, 2019 minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Are there any comments or corrections on these minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
The October 23rd minutes.
I'll move approval.
Second?
Any comments, questions, corrections on these minutes? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
October 28th, workshop meeting at Baldwin Middle School. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Any comments, corrections at all? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a public forum for topics on the board agenda. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board? No? All right. The next item on the agenda is to review and approve expenditures. I was the reviewer of expenditures for October 2019. Expenditures for the month of October were $4,441,993.60. Expenditures and encumbrances through the end of September were 28.42% of the budget, as compared to 27.35% in the prior year. We went over the budget numbers and the warrant extensively in the Operations Committee, but I don't know if there are any questions before we put the expenditures to a vote. Anybody have any questions or concerns? Is there a motion then to approve the expenditures for October 2019?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right. So now we get to welcome our student representatives. Welcome. And we would love to hear what you have to tell us about what's going on in our schools.
Thank you. I'll start from Calvin Lee. They have started the Choose Love initiative, in which students are learning about courage and how courage can help support healthy and positive relationships and friendships. Students are discussing the concept of courage at length and are learning how courage and other emotions form in our brains. Mrs. Monaco has introduced a new reading challenge for 3rd and 4th graders with incremental goals for a number of books read. The challenge may be open to 2nd graders in the future, but now it's only for 3rd and 4th graders. In the art classes, 4th graders are learning about pop art and Andy Warhol. 3rd graders are learning about the different varieties of lines by creating pieces with their names hidden in them. 2nd graders are working on balance and unity. 1st graders are finishing up their alphabet soup projects. And kindergartners are creating art projects inspired by French artist Pierre Mondrian. From A.W. Cox, 1st graders at A.W. Cox are working on an integrated literacy unit titled My Amazing Body. Through engaging tasks and texts, students learn about internal structure of the human body. The teachers are planning an opportunity for parents who work in the medical field to visit classrooms to share their knowledge. For the culminating activity, students will write about which book was the most useful for them in learning about the body. In a cooperative project between the library and art classes, 4th grade students read the book The Mischievans and created their own character with descriptive text and illustrations. On Halloween, kindergarten students enjoyed a visit by a mad scientist who demonstrated a variety of foaming, bubbling, and popping experiments that entertained and amazed. The entire A.W. Cox School traveled to the Guilford Green today to join the town's Veterans Day ceremony. Wearing red, white, and blue, the students contributed a song and were very proud to attend the ceremony to honor the women and men who have served our country in the armed forces.
From Baldwin Middle School, on Election Day, the teaching staff participated in professional learning activities, which focused on examining their grading practices and discussion around the habits of success that is valued in learners at Baldwin Middle School. And teachers also learned about incorporating action research into their work. In the afternoon, teachers engaged in activities related to the best practices in meeting the needs of our special education students, and teachers from Adams and Baldwin were able to meet together to discuss student equity and student agency in their content areas. Today and tomorrow, parent-teacher conferences are being held at Baldwin Middle School, so there's early dismissals. And because today was an early dismissal, the Veterans Day was approached differently. So students began the day by participating in a pledge, a moment of silence, and learning about the history and purpose of Veterans Day. Afterwards, students participated in a school-wide walk of gratitude to a table of honor display. This activity was designed to recognize the sacrifice and courage of our veterans. So, along with this walk of gratitude, the students were engaged in a discussion about the history of the table display, which helped them learn about the core ideas of courage and gratitude that are embedded in Veterans Day. And then for Melissa Jones School, the past month has been fun for the students. So recently, the third grade students went on a field trip to Mystic Aquarium as part of their unit on ocean animals. So the students there got to see beluga whales, they got to touch stingrays, and they were also able to watch the seal show. And they thought it was very interesting to see the different habitats of the ocean animals. The Melissa Jones PTO also held a festive and well-attended Halloween carnival. The kids and their families enjoyed games, dancing, trick-or-treating, and a hayride. Grade 4 students created Rube Goldberg projects during science as part of their learning about physical science and changes in energy. Families were all invited to see these creations on Friday, November 1st. And Melissa Jones's parent-teacher conferences were held last Thursday and Friday. And after meeting with their child's teacher, parents were left notes of love and encouragement for their kids.
Moving on to Guilford Lakes, on October 18th, fourth graders took their annual field trip to the high school to complete the mile run on the track. Each student was partnered with a high schooler that was their designated cheerleader. While the fourth graders were running their hearts out, the third graders got to visit the Pequot Museum. They learned about Native American culture in Connecticut and how they lived off the land here. On the following Friday, the 25th, the kids wrapped up their week with an amazing National Hispanic Heritage Month assembly. The students, through first and fourth grade, recited readings and sang songs highlighting the history and importance of Hispanic heritage in America. For Red Ribbon Week, they hosted a Spirit Week, which consisted of Crazy Hair or Hat Day on Monday, Wear Red on Tuesday in a nod to Red Ribbon Week, and wear black and orange for Halloween on Thursday. They hosted first responders on Friday for their assembly for Red Ribbon Week. The first responders shared tips on safety and making good choices, and students were also mesmerized by Kobe the Canine. For Adams Middle School, the Guilford Septo Group and the Guilford Foundation sponsored 2 showings of the film Angst, a documentary about anxiety. One was for parents, shown in the GHS library, and the next day all 7th and 8th grade students viewed the film in the gym. The National Junior Honor Society sponsored the Halloween dance on October and raised over $800. Student Council sponsored 4 Hat Fridays where students and staff paid $1 to wear a hat. That effort raised over $500 for Veterans Day breakfast. The fall sports concluded at Adams with an end-of-the-season highlight, the performance of Coleman Love, who placed 26 out of 417 runners in the middle school cross-country state championships, held at Wickham Park in Manchester. Social studies classes are collecting items for the Guilford Food Bank Holiday Food Drive, and they are hopeful that they will get a lot of donations.
All right, moving on to the high school. The annual tree lighting concerts are being held on December 6th and 7th in the First Congregational Church on the Green. Many GHS ensembles will be playing, including Voices, Concert Choir, and Symphony Orchestra. Dr. Freeman, Mr. Macenti, Mrs. Sullivan, and Mr. Russo are leaving this Thursday to attend the Blue Ribbon ceremony in Washington, D.C. They'll spend Thursday and Friday there, and they will be receiving a plaque and a banner to bring back here. They're very proud of this new title. The fall play ended this weekend. It was a huge success. The online ticket sales were higher than they have been for the past several years, and everyone was very satisfied with the turnout. Interact Club's Pasta Night on November 5th was also a huge success. Mr. Macenti yet again won the award for Most Plates Devoured.
Not surprising.
Homecoming is approaching. It's November 22nd, which is next Friday. And parent-teacher conferences are also coming up, which are the 13th and 14th. And both days will be half days. And Unity Week is the week of the 18th. And lastly, the school pep rally is going to be the day before Thanksgiving break.
The first quarter ended this month, and next Monday, the students will be getting their report cards. Fall sports are still going strong, most of them, a couple wrapping up, but for SEC finals, the girls cross-country team took home the title. The boys got second. Girls soccer, boys soccer, volleyball, field hockey all won their SEC titles, which is a record 5 SEC titles to one school. It is the first time to ever happen in SEC and Guilford history. And it's also the first time in 25 years that volleyball has won the SEC championship. So congrats to all of those teams. The food drive for the Guilford Food Bank ends on November 22nd. We are competing with Daniel Hand and Brantford High School for breakfast cooked by Mr. Cooksey.
Wonderful.
A lot going on.
Does anyone have any questions for any of our student reps? That was terrific. Great news, lots of great news. Thank you so much. As always, you are welcome to stay. You are also welcome to go if you have homework or other things you need to attend to. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
You too.
And homecoming. All
Thank you,
kinds of fun
guys.
stuff. Wonderful, thank you.
Good job.
All right. Turning it now over to Dr. Freeman for the superintendent's report.
This will be brief tonight. The students did take some of my material. I was going to share that Mr. Macenti, Mr. Russo, Mrs. Sullivan, and I will be traveling to DC on Thursday to accept the Blue Ribbon recognition for Guilford High School. On this past Wednesday, at a faculty meeting here at the high school, Mrs. Cohen and Mr. Scanlon presented a commission, a declaration to the high school staff congratulating them. It included a declaration that was shared on the legislative floor, as well as a recognition from the governor. And we appreciated them coming and recognizing that. I was also going to highlight some of the Veterans Day activities, and you heard the students touch on many of the Veterans Day activities that happened. I will just let you know that on the lead story on our website this evening is a more detailed explanation of the ways that the students learned about Veterans Day, learned about the sacrifices and contributions made by veterans, and recognized and celebrated local veterans in our schools today. Can't tell you how excited we continue to be that we now have schools in session on Veterans Day rather than taking it as a holiday. And finally, I just want to share that budget preparation is in process. As you know, we have hosted one public hearing where we listened to the community and their priorities for this coming budget. You met with the administrative team, listened to their priorities. Next week, we begin individual meetings with building principals and directors to begin building and compiling the budget. We hope that we have the ability to reflect those concerns that we heard shared with us in both of those settings, and we will have that to present to you in early January as we return. We'll have the complete budget to share with all of you. It'll consume much of the next several weeks as we compile that budget and get it ready for presentation to you and to the public. And I apologize, but that concludes my report for tonight.
It's all right. Did anyone have any questions about that, or? Okay. We, so as Dr. Freeman referenced, we did have a public forum at the end of October, which allowed community members to come out and present to the board their interests in terms of things that they would like the board and the administration to focus on or think about for the upcoming budget. As we go through the budget process, there will be at least 2 more formal opportunities for public input at the end of January, once there is a budget proposed budget formed. However, the public should know that they at any point can reach out to any board member with a question, an idea, a thought about that. All right, board agenda. We're up to 10.1, which is the 2021 school calendar draft. Dr. Freeman, do you want to?
Happy to highlight. So the
Highlight
next three
anything
items
for
are
us?
receive items only. We will be presenting the proposed school calendar for next school year, as well as the associated calendars for Board of Education's regular meetings and committee meetings. You received a copy of those three items as exhibits in your packet, but when it comes to the actual overall school calendar, I would actually ask to draw your attention to the one that you received in your folder for today. There's one minor change. The one in your folder would be the more accurate copy. I will start by noting that, once again, this calendar follows fairly closely to the regional template calendar that we now create as a region through the Learn RESC. Some time ago, the state was moving towards adopting regional calendars. We've moved away from that initiative, but locally, the school districts found it to be a positive habit to create a local template, and then we all work to align to that template. So in front of you, you will see that school begins on Thursday, August 27th, the last Thursday in August, having become the traditional first day of classes, and that aligns with the first day of almost all of the other school districts in the Middlesex and southeastern areas. You will note that the winter vacation in December and the April vacation also align with that regionalized calendar, as well as the professional development day in November and the one in March. So this gives us opportunities to collaborate with other school districts, but I think just as importantly, it allows families who may have students in one school system and parents working in other school systems to have much more reliable and consistent calendars. You will also note that the calendar includes 5 full days of professional development, as has become the norm here in Guilford, as well as a number of early release days on Wednesdays, where staff members work a complete workday, but students are dismissed early, and we take the opportunity for those to be professional learning opportunities as well. So I would just note that on the blue and yellow dates that you see on this calendar, those are days that are committed to adult teacher staff learning as well as student learning, because in Guilford schools, we honestly believe that we are all learners. And the one change, the one difference between the calendar in your packet and the one in your folder is the addition of one early release day that you see on September 23rd. When the leadership team looked at this, we felt that it was important. We start with 3 full days of professional learning in August, and we didn't want to go all the way till the end of October before having another extended opportunity to continue that momentum and to continue to leverage that work with our faculty and staff. And so we did add one additional early release day in September. That brings us one more above what we've done traditionally, but again, we think it's important and we think we get a good value for that. I will finish by noting that this calendar, as proposed, shows the last day of school on June 9th, but it builds in no snow days. And so it is June 9th, barring any closings, any emergency closings for any reasons. We haven't had a lot of those years with no closings recently, and so it does not include any accommodation for that. And then the last comment, I think I said that twice already, the last comment is this calendar does not include a full week February vacation. You will see that it includes a long weekend in February, again, as has become tradition. Essentially, it's a pretty straightforward and easy calendar this year. It's very similar to what you've seen in past years since we have adopted the regional template.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns or comments as we receive this?
Yeah, I wanted to just bring to attention that, when I saw this, I always, especially the calendar, I just like to kind of get initial feedback, and fortunately I live in a neighborhood with a big bus stop, various ages, and the starting a full week early, because Labor Day is later this year, just anecdotally, I had one mother say, I already booked summer camp, and I had my neighbor across the street like, that's the week we go on vacation, and so it was creating, so I was just starting to ask around a little bit more, and I just wanted to know, if there was some flexibility in that, only because I think we're going to run into this. I just do, because now that Labor Day is on the 7th, I know that we always traditionally start on the Thursday, the last Thursday in August, but it's also having us end very early in June. So is there some flexibility with that? I know this year we're, our academic year is ending on a Friday, this current school year. So I was trying to see, well, where could we maybe capture a little bit more flexibility for families who, didn't count on that being the school week just because of the way Labor Day falls. And it's just to put it out there. It's
So-
just initial feedback that I've been
Always
getting.
flexibility, and
Yeah.
it's exactly the reason
Yeah.
why we bring the calendar as a receive item, but don't ask for board to take any action on it until your next meeting. Now, it's a little bit late in that we won't be acting till December. We could absolutely roll that whole first week down, right? And so we could absolutely have the first student day be on the 3rd and have 3 professional development days happen on the 31st, the 1st, and the 2nd, and that would move the last day of school from the 9th to the 16th. That's an easy move. I will tell you that the exact same conversation came up at the regional superintendent meeting and at our local district leadership team meeting as we reviewed the calendar. The exact same questions were asked. The regional decision was to, again, to sort of stay with that last Thursday in August logic that has been applied. And it's really that Labor Day comes late, not that we are proposing a start. But the board speaks for the community. You have between this meeting and your next it would be an easy change if the board suggested just dropping the whole piece down one full week. And we'd still be proposing to get out on the 16th. I would only be a little uncomfortable about remember by statute, we cannot go beyond June with school days. So we'd be looking at 10 snow days. That's a big year, but we've done it. We've had more than 10 snow days. So absolutely, this is a board decision, and it's the pleasure of the board that will set the calendar dates.
I think this would be the one year where we might have to, because Labor Day lands so late, and I think, looking
It's the
forward.
latest it can possibly be.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
it'll
is. No,
slide
that's right.
back
Yeah.
next year, the following year, but this is the year where it kind of,
It is a good point, and actually, I just noticed it when you mentioned it.
yeah.
And, it is, because we usually do start the last Thursday, but as Ms. Rader pointed out, it does, really that puts your last full week of, families doing vacation things the week before, if the last week of school is preparation, and then there's a Labor Day break. So it does
Yeah.
pose an interesting question for this
The other
year.
question that I will anticipate would be the separation of Good Friday from the April
That was the
week-long
next
break.
one I got.
And the conversation there was that with Good Friday falling so early in April, there was concern about having the April vacation fall in that first full week of April rather than in the second full week of April. So again, the regional template has made this decision, and we are following that regional template. We could certainly move it up, but that would become a very early April vacation, and it would then separate our community from some
And
neighboring
doesn't-
communities.
That comes into play with sports very often. I know that some athletes are penalized if they leave for spring break with their families if the other opposing teams are participating in that week.
The more that
So
we're in
that might-
alignment, we
yeah.
won't eliminate those conflicts,
Yeah.
but we may minimize those conflicts if we share vacation weeks around us. If we all have different vacation weeks, we are guaranteed that we will not only have practices but contests in our vacation week.
Yeah.
So yes, it's
Okay.
another good reason for us trying to track as closely to the template as we can.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
I know that there are some schools, neighboring schools in the past who start traditionally after Labor Day. Is that apt to happen? And I'm trying to think how
I'm speculating,
aligned.
but I think that would be very few schools with Labor Day falling so late in the calendar. I think that when Labor Day falls earlier in the calendar, there are a number of schools, some local, that have been trying to get back to the tradition of
Back to
opening
the
after
tradition.
Labor Day. In the 8 years that I've been with you, the only year that we opened after Labor Day was the year that
School.
we moved into this building, and it was
Right.
to create, we had 2 years of calendars that both worked to create the longest summer we could create for the completion of construction and the move between the two schools.
And let me not misrepresent, I was not making that as a suggestion.
Yep.
It was simply that, as you have presented these calendars every year and talked about the regional decision-making, it has seemed that the opening day of school has been more variant than, there's been more variation between schools than other decisions within
Yes.
the region.
That and the February vacation. There are still a few districts that still maintain a full week in February.
Okay.
The April vacation and the December, the winter break tend to be much more aligned. Yes, there is some variation on the first day, and there's still some variation about the February break.
Okay.
I'd be curious also to see, I think Guilford's gotten used to the fact that we don't get a full February week, but do we see a drop in attendance on those 3 days? I mean, you can't answer that. No, you don't
No,
really
I don't
see it,
believe
yeah.
that we do, no.
Families elect to pull kids and, yeah.
No more that we would see on the beginning of end of any week-long vacation that we do have scheduled, and so, no, we haven't noticed. And the other argument for it was to allow the school to be empty and to let all of the infections. Yes.
Germs get away.
And so we've tracked illness attendance, and we haven't seen a big difference
Okay.
as a result of that either. But that was one of the concerns that people used to argue for
Yeah.
February break. And then the other argument is that we live in New England and we should have 2 winter breaks. That's part of the other argument.
As I recall, when we were first considering this years ago, I was a strong advocate for keeping the full week. As a member of the board, I was in the minority, and then literally that month, there were like 8 snow days before February vacation. And so my colleagues
You were
were
rather-
quick to point out that there was a reason to not consider a full week at that time. But, all right, well, so this is something we will vote on next month. If there are other questions or considerations, people should bring this forward.
I would just note that I would really encourage the board to take action at the next meeting so that we
Yes.
can then
Oh,
publicize
absolutely.
this so people can begin planning.
To plan.
what's the
Oh,
definite-
absolutely.
Once I started talking
Yes.
about it, everyone was like,
Everybody wants a
Huge.
definitive calendar in
Yeah.
front of them, yes.
so,
Okay.
thank you.
10.2 is to receive the Board of Ed meeting calendar, Exhibit 10-2.
Just follows the school calendar that we're proposing.
That's right. So this identifies, again, the budget, the regular meetings and then the workshop meetings.
All of which the board is required to identify in advance, but the board has
Right.
the ability to cancel and reschedule meetings at any time with a simple vote. So it's a guideline, it's not a hard schedule that you must follow.
And just, particularly for new members, just noting that there are a couple instances when we end up having meetings on Tuesday due to holidays, so heads up. 10.3 is the committee meeting calendar drafts for the operations, the CIA, and the policy committee meetings. Again, a receive.
Receive only, and the simple logic there is that an operations committee meeting essentially precedes every one of these regular televised business meetings, and either a policy committee or curriculum instruction and assessment meeting precedes every of the regularly scheduled workshop meetings, your second regular meeting of any month.
Anybody have any questions about any of those while we're receiving? All right. 10.4, receive for possible action ratification of the GEA contract. Mrs. Sullivan, were you gonna
I
talk
was
to us
not
about?
part
Oh.
of the GEA. I would
sorry.
be happy to do the administrators.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one.
Teacher's
Yes,
contract,
you're
yeah.
the administrators. Oh, so, no, the embarrassing thing I'm gonna say out loud is, I was on the GA contract negotiations with Mr. Bloss and Mr. Kazin. I'm gonna ask Dr. Freeman to update the board on the contract ratification.
So I will note that this negotiation process did move through a mediation. The ultimate agreement that we bring to you tonight that was ratified by the Teachers Association was reached through mediation. But that being said, I want to say that it was also an incredibly open and collaborative and positive process. And we really very much appreciate all of the teachers who participated in the leadership of the GEA in the way that they came to this process. Ultimately, the final contract does include salary increases, and the teacher's contract being complicated by the fact that there are 14 steps from the time a teacher enters our salary scale until the time that teacher achieves full salary. It takes a minimum of 14 years to move through to full salary. And so in year one, what we see is that one of those steps is being eliminated to shorten that distance, that an additional step is being added to Scale C only. Scale C are for teachers that hold 2 master's degrees or a 6th-year degree beyond their master's degree. And then there is a 1.39% increase added to the top step. Teachers who are not moving through the salary scale will recognize an increase of 1.39% in that year. All other teachers will move through the salary scale. That's a total salary account increase of 2.95% in year one of this contract. In year two, there is step movement as well as a 1.64% increase added to the maximum step. And there's a total increase in the salary account of 2.975%. And in year three, there is a 1.14% added to the maximum step movement, and a total salary increase of 2.975%. The complication is in how do you allow people to continue to move through those steps? We've had other contracts where movement through the salary scales is frozen. How do you make sure that teachers who are at the maximum step continue to see some growth? And again, in this contract, all 1.fraction% increase. And this brings a total contract increase over 3 years of less than 3% per year. There's no year where the increase is ever over 3%. Included in that, there is some change to the employee health care benefit. Currently, employees cover 19.5% of the premium cost of their insurance. That will increase over the 3 years to become 20.5% of that cost share. So that is minimal movement, but it is movement in teachers taking on teachers taking on a greater share of that cost. And then there were some minor language changes. Most specifically, there was changement to the bereavement language, recognizing in-laws, parents, and in-law children with bereavement days. That was currently an oversight in the contract language, as well as step parents, step siblings, and step children being recognized with bereavement time, should that be necessary. Again, this was reached through mediation. You have the red line of the contract with changes in your packet in front of you, and the Teachers Association has ratified this contract. It simply waits for the board approval to move forward.
Does anybody have questions, thoughts about, does the board feel ready to ratify?
Before you
Oh, sorry.
vote, one last thing that I would like to mention. I would like to thank Dr. Balistraci, Mr. Bloss, Mr. Kazin, as well as Mrs. Trudeau and Mr. Bowden for all the time that went into these negotiations. This is only one of 4 contracts that have been negotiated this year, and it takes a considerable amount of time and late evenings. So appreciation to all the board members and members of the leadership team who worked on this.
And also echoing your appreciation, probably 15, 16 teachers?
At least, yes.
Who participate in this process as well. Great to work with them to get to this point. So can I ask for a motion to ratify the GA contract?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, wonderful. Now,
I think
now
actually
that I've
Mr. Sands is going to do it.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, now
We'll
that
just
I
keep
have my
moving it around.
contract straight, Mr. Sands, you're going to fill us in on the administration's contract?
Okay. So we had a spirited negotiation. Amy Sullivan, Vince Baglio, and Moria Rader represented the board. On the salaries for the administrators, we agreed on 2.5% increase in each year. The administrators also get a payment into their annuity fund, and we agreed to 2%, 2.25%, and 2.5% over the 3 years of the contract. We moved the stipend for administrators who have a doctorate from $1,000 to $2,000. We made some minor changes to personal days and bereavement, basically bringing them in line with the teacher's contract. We increased the maximum payout under the long-term disability plan from $5,000 a month to $8,000 a month. And we made a change in the procedures and rules relating to forced reductions in administrative staff. This is not something we've done, but it's a protection in there in the event that it became necessary at some point in the future. And basically the change is that now if somebody is reassigned, that they, for the first year of their new assignment, they would have the lower of their existing salary or $10,000 less than the existing salary. And other than that, there really wasn't any other major changes. Yes, there was a change on the amount that the administrators pay into the insurance plan, and that went up 0.5% each year.
Except the first year, no change in the first year.
Yeah. That's right, yeah. So, but other than that, the insurance plan stayed as it was. Yes, the employee, no, actually, in the draft, there is a change. The employees the administrators are paying 20% in the first year, 20.5% in the second year, and 21% in the third year. So that's that's a summary of the contract.
Do you have a question?
No.
Okay. Did you want to add anything, anyone here?
Linda, are you confident with those insurance numbers?
Yeah.
Yes, yep, thank you,
Okay.
yep.
All set?
We just wanted to double check, yep, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions or about this? Do we feel ready to ratify this as well? All right, I'll ask for a motion then to ratify the administrator's contract.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Again, I'll just share my thanks with the board members, with Mr. Bowden, Mrs. Trudeau, and with Mr. Hamill and the rest of the administrative negotiations team. Again, I very much appreciate the collaborative and serious nature that people bring to these negotiations. I will note that in the administrative negotiations, we did not need to go to mediation and in fact did not need to avail ourselves of attorneys during the negotiations. We saved those fees.
Excellent. Great. 10.6, to act on recommendations from the policy committee. I'm going to ask Dr. Best to present us with those items.
Okay. We are being asked to act on policy and regulation number 5466. This is our policy and regulation associated with pediculitis or head lice. This was a receive item at the October meeting, so we did discuss it pretty extensively. These changes, I would note, were reviewed both by members of our school nursing staff as well as our school physician consultant.
Our advising consulting physician,
Our
yes.
consulting physician. And so we are acting according to their direction. Are there any questions related to that policy?
Okay, so I'm going to ask first for a motion on policy 5466. Mary, is that a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Okay, second, we're being asked to act on number
Oh,
3724.
I'm so sorry, my fault. Sorry for interrupting you. We also then need to vote on the regulation that accompanies that policy 5466. Is there a motion to pass the regulation?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
My apologies.
Okay, so second, we are being asked to act on policy changes to number 3724. That's our meal charging policy. Again, this policy was discussed at our October meeting as a receive item, and this policy has been reviewed both by the board in October and also by our dining staff, and we've made changes according to those recommendations.
So is that a motion to approve the meal charging?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So we're up to item 11 on the agenda, reports of committees. The policy committee, I believe, meets this, yes. So we don't have any report tonight. The operations committee?
Yes, we met today, or this evening. There are really three items. One, the report on tuition indicates that our special ed costs for at the moment is estimated to be over the budget. It's unfortunate that we've gone over the budget this early in the year, but we've had a couple of students that needed some additional support. The month of September for our health claims was a very adverse month. Claims were very high in that month, but the previous month had been unusually low, so it seems to be some sort of a timing issue. And finally, the construction projects that we undertook during the summer have all been closed out except for the Baldwin heating and air conditioning project, which is almost complete and I believe will be completed by this time next month. So that would be my report,
Okay.
Madam Chairman.
Terrific. And as we talked about in the operations committee, the tuition line is one that is one of the hardest for us in terms of budgeting, and it's one that we monitor really closely throughout the year. So we are feeling confident in our ability to address that as we move forward, but it is noted. Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment Committee.
Yes, we met in October, and we did get a brief update on geometry this year at the high school with the leveling changes that happened. We will get a more in-depth report in January about that. Briefly, there's 249 students in geometry this year, 4 teachers, 11 sections, and again, we'll get a more updated report from teachers in January. Did also talk about something new this year, that new teacher support. It is a voluntary program for new teachers to be in, and it's not, certain teachers, it's just any new teacher, different topics throughout the year that can help support new teachers in their career. The last thing we talked about was a diagram with the abbreviation PDSA, Plan, Do, Study, Act. And I apologize if I misrepresent it, but my understanding was that it's a way to measure goals and different things that we're doing throughout the year to help coaching and teachers.
Actually, really happy to hear the students report out that at Baldwin, there was conversation about teachers engaging in more action research in their classrooms, which is a direct reference back to the Plan, Do, Study, Act work that Dr. Crystal shared with you that we've been working with teachers. So really exciting to hear that that's percolating down to at least the student representative level and that they're reporting that back to us.
And then finally, we discussed future topics for the rest of the year. That was it.
Any reports from liaisons to town committees?
Well, there's no report from the pension committee because the pension committee hasn't met for a couple of months. They're apparently short members and they can't get a quorum. So just a shout out to anybody who's got extensive experience in investing and wants to volunteer to help the town. They're very interested in getting some additional members on the pension committee.
All right. Was anyone able to attend the Learn Board of Directors meeting last month? Okay, so one of the things that we can do when we put out committee, I'll talk to Tara tomorrow, but we can put out committee requests is note the Learn Board of Directors meetings and see if we can't get representation. It's a challenge. I think they're Thursday mornings, so certainly for those of us that work, that's a challenge, but we can work on that.
If I may, I would note that after 6 years, I'm also stepping off of the Learn Executive Committee, and so we did maintain some
Right.
tangential connection through my involvement in the
Okay, so
Executive
that's
Committee
good
of
to
the
know.
board. But after 6 years and with some other commitments, I have let them know of my intention of stepping back from that. So would be great if we could have some more regular board attendance at their
Okay,
meetings.
we'll have to think about how to approach that. I know most recently, we tried the idea of kind of rotating and seeing who's available, which sort of worked and sort of didn't, in the sense that we were able to attend some meetings and not others. So we might need to be,
There's some
approach
months that
it
we just
a
didn't have
little
someone,
more,
yeah.
in a little more structured and organized fashion to make sure that we get there. All right. The last item on the agenda is public questions. Is there anyone in the public who'd like to approach the board with questions? All right, hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn for the evening?
So moved. Oh, second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. All right, thank you. Good night.
I love the way you start with a short meeting for new members.